Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dogs Down South. I'm your host, Ted Turner. We are live on air, as you can see, corny as it looks and sounds, but we're live on air. We're live tonight on Facebook as well as YouTube, also live on Twitter, and we are also live right now on TikTok as well. So it's preferred platform that you're on tonight. Hop on, join us. We are a day and about, I don't know, day and a half into spring practice. So that's exciting. And we are going to talk so much stuff because we have not really formally all gotten together. What I mean by that is I'm going to add the best part of the hang session tonight. Man, Richman, what's up? How are you, Richman?
Hey.
Richman is hey. Fish, here we are. How are you, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Trying to get back in football mode for the show because I've been full blown basketball for the past couple of weeks.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Man, we laid an egg in basketball, so I was probably going to talk about some basketball tonight, but yeah, we won't. We won't do that. Man, we got so much to talk about football wise, though. We don't get to hang out on air much during the off season, but man, I don't know about you guys in Georgia, but in the Florida area, the Tampa area, man, we got a little crisp 85 the last few days. I know you guys have been like in the 60s and junk, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm seeing some sunlight. I'm seeing some greener grass. So that can only tell us one thing, and that spring football is here. We get to see some football for a little while. I don't know how many spring games we're going to see, but we get to see some football. And then before long, you know it, summer hits, and we are back in the fall, and we are in the best part of the year, which is football season. Fish, how excited are you about spring ball right now?
Well, I'm super excited, man. Can't wait. Just glad for any kind of football. Like, I'll take whatever I can get right now at this point. Going through withdrawals since the end of the season.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How about you, Rich, man? You ready for some football, man? I mean, I know we're in spring.
Ready to see a little quarterback action and actually see some receivers catch the ball.
Yeah.
Not
man, I agree
with it.
I agree, man. Like, quarterback is the hot topic. We're going to talk about that tonight, too. Hey, if you're joining on TikTok, make sure you like and share the feed. Also on Facebook, if you haven't done so. This is live on Apple Podcasts 24 hours after this. Go check out episode 51, where I was kind of went solo, but I kind of broke down some power rankings and looked at a way too early SEC wins and losses total. And that's going to be something I'm going to do later on this week on TikTok as well. Love to hear what Dog Nation thinks about the rest of the SEC. This is the time where we can talk a little bit about the rest of the SEC. But guys, let's hop in. Spring practice is here, right? And so I want to cover some storylines. Obviously, Kirby had a big presser to enter into spring on Tuesday. And we're going to hit I was going to show a little bit of the video, but we got so much we want to cover tonight. I was just going to hit some of the main things that he hit. But the number one thing I think coming out of this and questions already arising is, and I think, Fish, you hopped in our group chat and talked about this, but I want to toss this out about his presser. First and foremost is number one question everybody is asking, is Kirby being a little bit too loyal to his assistants? Obviously, we know in that presser, he used the words, I have the best staff in the country. And I'm going to argue against the fact that he could be right. And I'm going to also argue against the fact that he could be wrong. But I want to hear from you guys. Like, Fish, you brought the question up, so let me let you dive in really quick. What do you think, man? Do you think Kirby is just a little too loyal?
I mean, it's really hard to say, and it's hard not to trust him. It's hard not to think he doesn't know what he's doing. You know, I mean, he's Kirby Smart. He obviously knows what he's doing. He's, worked with Saban. He's won 2 natties. I mean, he's a great coach, and everybody thought he was crazy for starting Stetson Bennett, know, and that turned into one of the best decisions he's ever made.
Right.
So I mean, his track record says that we should trust him, but after last year, I mean, it's hard to really even say what all happened. Like there was a lot of factors that happened last year. It wasn't just Bobo's play calling or the receivers dropping the ball. The O-line wasn't fantastic. The injuries at running back, put a lot more pressure on Carson. So, I mean, there were a lot of things that you could point at to say what went wrong last year, even though we only lost 2 regular season games, still won the SEC championship.
Right.
Like I feel like
how do you get rid of your coaches when you win the SEC championship?
I mean
that in itself's kind of over the top, sort of.
And what we want really doesn't matter. Kirby knows better than anybody out here sitting down, talking, doing shows, doing podcasts, doing ESPN, whatever. He knows better. So we got to trust him. But
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about the receivers. If they had caught 20% of the balls they dropped, we probably would have been in the national championship.
I know.
So it's an oblong ball. It bounces funny ways, and then you throw social media and people like us in there, and it gets really wacky.
It gets convoluted.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I'm going to mention this a few times tonight just to engage our TikTok viewers. We're live on our weekly podcast, Dogs Down South. If you haven't already done so, if you want to hop over now on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or 24 hours later on Apple Podcasts, there's 52 episodes over there. This is the 52nd episode. My fault, but just engage. If you got any questions on the TikTok side, throw them up. We'd love to hear them. Glad to have you guys enjoying. Got a full room over here. So yeah, I mean, everybody looked at. I was listening to another podcast a couple of days ago, and something that jumped out at me was, they asked, when you would rank, if you would rank coaching staffs, right? Would Georgia be in the top, more safe to be in the top 20, or the top maybe 5 coaching staffs? And I heard a very interesting comment. Yeah, and I agree. The comment that was made is defensively, yeah, top 5. When you add the offense in there, I think if you flip it around, our offensive staff might be the part that drags us down to more of the maybe top 10, top 15-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Mike Bobo is probably would you say a top 15 sought after offensive coordinator if he was available right now? Top 15.
There's a lot of
I'd like to see.
There's a lot of mid-tier to bottom-tier Power 4 schools that would love to have him. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But he's not going to go get the Ohio State job. He's not going to go get the Oregon job as an OC. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, everybody hated Seals this year. And I'm the first one to call it here. Kirby was very adamant. He said, I have the best coaching staff, and the players have come to the defense of this staff. I mean, even at Pro Day yesterday, you had a lot of players that are like, if we caught the ball, if we executed some of these plays that Bobo called, I think you don't see Mike Bobo in this predicament that we're in right now, right?
Yep.
And there's another profound statement that I'm going to throw out there later on that'll bring some light to it as well. But I will say my piece and say that I have on this podcast called for Bobo. I've on my TikTok called for Bobo, and even Stacy Searles at times. But I will say that if I do believe in Kirby, I do. If there's something in the water that we're not. I mean, I don't show up to meetings. I'm not involved in meetings, and in the thick of it, we see the games, and that's it, right? Yeah. So in Kirby, we trust. But I would.
But we've all got PTSD.
Another year where our offensive line plays the way they did the last 2 years. I'm jumping off the boat.
Right.
Bro, we all have PTSD from the first Bobo stint when he was there with Rick.
Right.
If you've been a Georgia fan for more than 10 years, you remember. You know, and we all still have that bad taste in our mouth because that didn't work out.
Yeah, so. I mean, you go back and look at that, man. Half of that problem was he was putting up 40 points a game. And we had terrible defensive coordinators. Terrible defense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
a lot of this stuff's relative, and it's always going to get back to the talent. What do you do with this talent? And that's what I'm concerned about, especially with the offensive line.
Yeah.
You know, they're all saying, "Oh, it's on me, it's on me." Well, why is it on you? Right. Why didn't you get coached up? Why didn't you get your footwork fixed? Why didn't you learn that reach block? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you execute that? You know,
well, I was gonna wait on this, but I will shove this to the top. This is my hot topic. This is my hot take. It's not even in our notes. I wanted to surprise you guys with it.
I like eating dessert first, man.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Let's have the banana. I love banana pudding. I don't know what's your favorite dessert, Fish. What's your favorite dessert?
Peach cobbler. Ooh.
Peach cobbler. What you got, Richman?
Dude, give me a cheesecake, brother.
Cheesecake, peach cobbler. I'll go banana pudding. Let's all have that right now. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Kirby made a profound statement in his presser, and he said, I want to see players have the fire this year. I want to see more players worried about becoming a great football player than their NIL bottom line. Now,
I saw that.
There's a lot of speculation that he was talking about somebody.
I think he's talking about somebody that's not with us anymore.
Right. I think it's AKA 6 Lamborghinis, Carson Beck. And my thing is
CB15.
Are we looking at, when we look back at last year, right? Was there more, and I'm going to let you guys have a few minutes each on this, was there more in the making with this Carson Beck drama than we could ever see? We know Kirby does not let the crap get out of the hen house.
When Beck got hurt, and the reaction we saw from the team and how excited they were about Gunner,
that told me a lot.
You know there was drama going on behind the scenes, even if it wasn't out in the open. It was there. It was the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Fish.
And that makes you think, going forward, should we take somebody like that and give them that much money and then give everybody else chump change? Should they make it more equal so we don't have this dissension problem?
I think Kirby made that very clear with Justice Terry. I mean, I think he told everybody who's at Georgia right now, he said a big fat, if you're going to be here for the right reason. And they got their money, you know. But I do think there's a reason why Justice Terry is at Texas right now, and that's because he might have asked for some Carson Beck money. We know he did. And Texas said, we'll pay it. But guys,
you know what Kirby's saying this week? Anybody go out there and buy a Lambo, we're going to use your Lambo as a spirit car with sledgehammers before the Georgia Tech game. That's what he's saying.
Bro, that was a Feinbaum comment if I've ever heard it, man. We could be on Feinbaum right now with that one.
We should be.
Man, I don't know, man. I just think that I do think Kirby is very mysterious in how he communicates through pressers. I had the privilege of seeing Kirby not too long ago he spoke at Chick-fil-A's Next conference, which is for all the operators in the entire country. And he talked a lot about leadership, right? And I felt like in that particular dynamic, outside of talking to coaches and reporters, I felt like his mantra this year was, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think last year there was a chink in his armor. He was dealing with NIL in a way that he's never had to deal with it outside convo, and it really had him off his game last year. And I think from what I was getting from that piece of the time that I was able to listen to him, I think he's a guy this year that's on a different dynamic. And he said to himself, he said, I'm going to go back to the 10 years that I spent worrying about things that are in these doors at Alabama, and 10 years at Georgia worrying about what I can control here and less of what people want to try to control outside of that. And that's including players and their NIL bottom line. He wants people that wants to be there. And we can see, I mean, there was more turnover this year than ever. And that's not because I don't think nobody wants to play for Georgia. Don't get me wrong. Everybody should want to play for Georgia. You just saw the Super Bowl, and there's a lot of Georgia players on that team. And we all know that we're going to probably see 3 or 4 names called in the first round very soon. But I think he was admitting, it's like, look, I kind of let AKA Carson Beck, run this show a little too much and run the dynamic of this team too much last year. And I got a feeling the dynamic
he wagged the dog is what he did.
Yeah. He protected him too. He protected him in a lot of ways for him to turn around. And I do think a lot of people have twisted it to say Carson did this on his own. I think that conversation went different. I think Carson came in, and I think there was a mention of I might be coming back with this injury. And I think maybe Kirby might have been like, "Hey man, maybe you should look at other options." I don't know.
He probably
I don't really
came
know.
in and said he wanted another $4 million.
Maybe another 5 Lambos. I don't know.
That would be reasons to send him down the river.
Yeah. We're not spending time on Carson Beck tonight, though. Carson Beck is at the University of Miami taking snaps, and he can't throw right now. So we're going to concentrate on people that can throw right now. So other big talking points that Kirby brought up. Kirby bragged. Said, obviously, we talked about he has the best staff in the country. He stated he was asked, if we think – here's another thing we talked about. If he thinks G-Day is here to stay. And we know there's a lot of college SEC teams, I know at least, a lot of other teams as well, that are looking at getting rid of their spring game, right? And he said it. He alluded to the fact, he said, as long as the G-Day game makes sense for us, he said, I don't think you guys have understood. We have been a couple of injuries close to not having a G-Day game. Nobody just didn't know about that. It's like, look, we're going to have that game as long as we're healthy enough to have that game, right? So he's leaving it open to say, if I feel like there's years where we don't need this game, it might not happen, but I'd love to keep it around. But he also hinted at there could be a different dynamic for it. But we already know that we've had a lot of teams in the SEC that have canceled their spring games. You got Lane Kiffin. He's out. I don't think Kentucky's having one. I don't think Missouri's having one. I don't think South Carolina's having one. I'm not sure about Alabama. I don't think Florida's having one. Florida doesn't even have a quarterback that can throw right now because DJ Lagway's out as well right now that nobody knew about until. But let me ask you this. Let me start with you, Fish. What do you think about G-Day? You think this is a good decision? What do you like about the spring game? And do you think if it goes away, it's not a big deal?
My favorite part about the spring game is the tradition, is the year after year to look forward to something, midway through, the off season, and it's just more change, like, me and my family, I've been going to games since I was 8, 9 years old, spring game happens every year. That was a big part of my life because it's part of the off season. It's part of Georgia football,
Right.
And then if it goes away, if it makes sense, I guess, like Kirby said, I don't know. I guess I just have to accept it if it's going to go away. I wish it would stick around. I don't think it's a big deal like everybody's making it. Like everybody is finding stuff to want to change or, do this, do that. Everything's got to change. It's getting more to be about the money than just actually wanting to be somewhere and playing, and winning, but
yeah,
that's just the world we live in now, man. And if you don't accept that, then you're going to be mad all the time.
Right.
So, I mean, if it goes away, I guess that's, it's whatever, but I hope it doesn't.
Yeah. Rich,
I think,
man,
I think it's good. Obviously if one of your big players gets hurt and misses a season over spring game, that's not good. But I mean, like our quarterbacks this year, we need to see those guys play. We don't.
Yeah.
I want to see them play. That's for the spring because we probably won't see the other one much. The way Kirby is, unless we get up 70-0. But Kirby likes to pull the foot off the throttle. Something I never did when I was young. But
right,
I don't know. I like it, and I think it's great because you get to see these guys compete. So when you go into the summer, you already kind of have your depth chart where it makes sense. Because if you don't know going into the summer, you got to plan for that first game, but you also got to fight for positions and work on depth chart and all that. You've already done some of that going in, when you have good spring. So I don't know. Maybe it's.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out though because they've extended the season, and and now we're going back into full contact. That maybe they don't want to do it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I I
I
want
don't
to
want
see
to
them
swing
play.
it. I don't want to swing it towards a moneymaker, but maybe this be something more for the fans, right? Maybe maybe
That's
you
what it
don't
is.
play 4 quarters.
Well,
Maybe you play an abbreviated first and second half, and then part of it is maybe like a skills challenge type thing where maybe they do some like they get to see. I mean, I'd love to pull up and see our kickers. I mean, we have if not probably in the best special teams unit coming back this year in the country, right?
Yep.
So like I'd love to see him have some field goal contests and see Thorson booming. He can't this year, but 60, 70 yard punts he will be able to in the fall.
Yeah.
But I would love to see I can see what Carson. I mean, whoa.
so
Bro,
you're saying do it like a
Whoa.
field day, kind of like All Pro does.
Yeah, I would love to see Gunnar Stockton and Ryan
that would be
Puglisi
fun.
throw, sling at some targets and let some receivers, I'll be able to see what they can do without putting them in a situation. But that's the whole gist of it, I think. I think these coaches don't want these players to see any kind of depth chart. They don't want them to see, they're nationally televised a lot of these games. So these coaches are easily able to flip on the Georgia spring game and go, this guy's in a black jersey.
A lot of the fan base can't afford to go to games anymore, especially
Right.
take their kids with the prices. So this is an opportunity for those fans to take their kids,
right.
And have that game atmosphere. So that's part of it too.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of pros to it, but I would love to hear the heart behind like why we would cancel it, because in my opinion, it's just an easy out for some of these coaches. They don't want to show what they have. They don't want to show their hand. I mean, they don't let reporters stay in practice for more than 10, 15 minutes. And we all know what we're going to see. We're going to see Ryan Puglisi in a jersey holding a football, and it's like, oh, we're so excited we finally get to see him in a uniform. Or we see Gunner, and it's like, okay, so we saw Gunner. What's the big? But that's the thing. Reporters are only seeing, a snapshot of what's going on, and then when the real thing happens at practice, they're out of there. So there's just saying, if we're going to do that, why are we going to put a full game on display on ESPN and let everybody hit record on it and see what our talent pool is, so that when I don't know, when Johnny Bravo hits the portal, I can go back and look at Johnny Bravo and go, man, I saw him just do some really incredible stuff at this game. It gives the coaches a little bit more of a skewed perspective on who that person is because they have no tape on it. So I get it. I mean, everything's business now, but I'm with you guys. I like the G-Day game. It's tradition. It's the little bit of air in our sail in the middle of the year, and it kind of gets us to fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you would do. I mean, I don't even know if people would be more adamant about really following spring practice if there was no spring game, but we'll see. I mean, Georgia, as of right now, Georgia's probably going to be heavily followed because they're going to be one of the only spring games that happens. As far as I know, I mean, they've set a date, so it's obviously going to happen. So I don't know. But for time's sake, man, last thing, go ahead.
You're going to see a lot of generic Bobo offense.
Yeah, I don't think it will
tunnel
be
screen
anything,
left, tunnel screen right, tunnel screen
right.
left, tunnel screen right.
I don't think it'll be anything crazy. Yeah. But let's hop into final thing that was that he led the presser off with, which I think is great news, is Colby Young is officially with the team. Everything like fully reinstated. Give me 30 seconds, Richman. What do you think this means for this wide receiver room? And we're going to talk about this wide receiver room here in a minute. But what do you think Colby Young means coming back to Georgia this year?
Dude, he's going to come out and have 1,000-yard season, about 20 touchdowns, and we're going to be looking at last year going,
yeah.
That's what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Fish, what is Colby Young? What does this mean? Colby Young is eligible this year, and all the upside of him last year, and then kind of the abrupt halt in him being a part of the team. What does that mean for Georgia this year?
It means a lot for the passing game for sure. Especially with the added depth when we got Zach Branch coming in. That's going to be another star, hopefully. More power to him. I'm glad. We sure missed him last year. I know that.
Exactly. I tell you one thing, he's going to be focused like you ain't never seen, because this is it.
Yeah,
It's his
that's it,
opportunity
man.
right here. His
That's it.
future is going to ride on this season. So I expect
Yeah.
him to be very, very focused.
Yeah,
Me too.
very good point. Very, very good point. Let's talk a little bit. I thought this would be a cool topic to talk about because it lets us kind of go pretty wide range. You guys are more than happy to use my list. But I thought we would talk about some position groups that we feel that we know the most about post spring and post G Day. I'm sorry, pre spring, pre G Day. And then I thought we would throw a few position groups out there that we really don't know a lot about, that we really are, really wanting to see kind of what the Cards were holding. I know for me in the past 2 years, like last year, obviously, last year I was very curious to see our running back room last year with Trevor Etienne, with Frazier, with all the hype, right?
So
I was
much
interested
potential.
in seeing our
Well,
wide
let's talk
receiver
about quarterbacks first.
crew. Well, yeah, I mean, well, let's hop in real quick. Let's talk about really what we think we know most about. And I'll hop in there. I mean, you said it, Richman, but I had it down here as my number one. I do think we do know a lot about our quarterback room, but I will have you guys chime in. I'll give you what I have. Well, I mean, I'll let you. This is my list. I'll let you tell me what you think you know the most about.
Well, let me ask you this.
But
So if they go out this spring practice and Stockton and Puglisi they're right there together.
Mhm.
Neither one steps forward. Does it make sense to go with Puglisi because he's got a bigger arm, better arm talent, and he's also taller? So
Puglisi is. I mean, I don't want to rain on your parade, and I will just have to be wrong, but Kirby Smart's DNA. This job is not Ryan Puglisi's. This is Gunnar Stockton's job, regardless of how flashy he looks. We all know that
that's just the way Kirby works.
Kirby says, I need a leader, which if I'll be honest with you, the reason he's not going to go with Puglisi is because he's not going to repeat last year with Carson Beck. Not because Puglisi is like Carson Beck, because there is a lack of leadership because of youth, whereas Carson Beck was a lack of leadership because
I'll buy that.
Lambos. Leadership in Lambos and leadership in youth is completely two different things. But I think Gunnar knows the playbook. I think he's a rah-rah guy that people can come around and really rally around.
Team. I'll give him that.
Yeah. And I'm gonna let you guys speak into it. So I have some notes about a couple of them. So obviously Gunnar Stockton, I think he's that silent leader. I have heard from Kirby that he's not really a very vocal guy. However, he is a very, very hard worker. And guys, I'm just here to tell you, like, the Jake Fromms, the Stetson Bennett's, although Stetson had some loose moments towards the end of his career, but I don't think that details his entire career, because you got to understand Stetson had to work his tail off. He was not the most talented quarterback. We all know he was not very highly recruited. He bounced back and forth from JUCOs. It was a stroke of luck that he was still there and his number being called, because there was split wants. Some wanted him and some didn't, as far as even the coaching staff.
Right.
But I think, I've heard he rallies the team. He knows the playbook in and out very well. And tenure is huge for Kirby. Then you got Puglisi, things we know about him. He wants to be here. He picked Georgia. He wasn't a guy that was after NIL dollars, which is right down Kirby's DNA right now. He loves hearing that. NFL arm talent, tall, 6'3" frame, and can run with that frame. And he's a student of the game. So I think, you look at it and go, if Puglisi is here next year, I mean, who knows? You got to think Gunner's coming into his what? Gunner will be a junior this year, right? So if Gunner has an incredible year, you got Gunner Stockton for 2 years. He's not. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think Gunner doesn't have one thing that NFL scouts right now, not later, but right now, he doesn't have one thing that NFL scouts want in the first 5 rounds, right?
Yeah.
But Stetson didn't either, right? So Puglisi has that, and then we know a little bit about Ryan Montgomery. Once again, the reason why I have this group here is because all 3 of these guys have one thing in common. And I know we're like at the chalkboard and I'm playing teacher right now, but it's the one thing is they want to be at Georgia. They're not worried about their NIL. They're not worried about this, that, the other, their transfer portal. These are three guys that said, Georgia's my number one. Ryan Montgomery, ACL recovery. He was at every single game and practice he could be at, hobbling around the sideline with a torn ACL. Jake Fromm type. I've heard he's a Jake Fromm kind of tendency guy. He is a very vocal guy, very live arm, very good leader, team rallier. Same thing. He was at his high school playoff games, coaching them up with a torn ACL. So let me pitch it to you. I'll pitch it to you first, Fish. Do you really think you know this room, or is this for you a room that you still don't really know about?
I mean, we don't know a ton because we don't know what we're going to get from, like, you know, multiple games in a row from Gunner. You know, we know what we got against Notre Dame, and you can't hold that against the man. Although he didn't play bad. He didn't lose that game. It wasn't his fault.
Right.
that wasn't on him.
Right.
So, I mean, it's best to be optimistic, you know, about the room coming in.
Right.
Hearing nothing but good things about Puglisi. But you said it. You hit the nail on the head. Kirby is going to play him. He's not going to play Puglisi. Gunner's going to get the start. It's his to lose.
Yeah.
Right now, because that's just how Kirby works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, like, we don't know much, but we know a little, and what we know is not terrible. Like, it's something to hang our hat on. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's something to look forward to. It's easy to be a little optimistic.
I like it. I like the take. Richman, you said it, and I love this because I want to be able to hear all sides of this. Do you think this quarterback room, do we know a lot about it, or are you still a little bit unsure about this?
Still a little unsure. I mean, I love Gunner Stockton, but, you know, if he gets out there in 2 games and flounders, do you think we're going to see Puglisi get a shot? Or you think we're going to get
not in 2 games because they're not in 2 games.
Well, our first, what is it? What
you're not going to see Gunner Stockton flounder against Marshall and Austin Peay. You're just
right.
Now, Tennessee is the 3rd game on the slate. I would think, here's my thing. You got first 3 games, and then you got Alabama at home. I don't see Ryan Puglisi playing in those first 4 games. I just don't. Even if Tennessee is weird, there's some weird moments. You're asking a redshirt sophomore to play against, in my opinion, if you guys went back, not you guys, but if any of our listeners went back and looked at episode 51 of over and under wins, I have these 2 teams, Alabama and Tennessee, at least 9 wins, and in my top 4. Ryan Puglisi is not going to play against these. So now, different story if against Alabama and the outcomes of Alabama and Tennessee are not where we want to be. Yeah, I mean, now after that, shit might be wide open for business.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He'd have to look pretty bad, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but I like Puglisi.
But the thing, like we said, Gunner, he didn't lose that game for us. He played very well.
He did
against Notre Dame. So we're all of this is going to be layered on top of, can our offensive line actually block this year?
I mean,
and can our receivers actually catch a ball this year? Because if they're not doing that, I don't see him pulling Gunner. If Gunner's, if he's not the problem.
Well, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
Unless he's getting concussions,
But yeah, taking blows.
Well, I know. I mean, I have. Let's
Let me ask you another question.
So,
do you think that he's going to try to get Ryan playing time so our backup quarterback is a little more experienced in case of an injury like Beck went down?
I don't think so. I think Gunner needs unless we are blowing, unless it's 3rd and 4th quarter type stuff, I think they will try to get Gunner as many reps live those first 2 games as possible, because you have to understand he's still a guy that doesn't have a lot of live snaps.
Right.
So it's at the sacrifice of what the team needs and not Ryan Puglisi, because of course we want to get Puglisi and well, I don't know if Montgomery. I mean, I'm thinking they're saying Montgomery's going to be fine. That probably is the reason why we didn't go in the portal. There are some other quarterbacks in that room, but obviously they're not to the caliber of those three. But I think it will be hard to keep Gunner off the field the first two games because he needs those live snaps, because on the third game of the season, he's got an open SEC play at Neyland.
Yeah. Woo.
So, and then you got to come home and play Alabama, and I don't know where Alabama will be then. Alabama
I think he'll
opens up
handle
against
Neyland. I think he'll handle Neyland fine. I mean, he played in a playoff quarterfinal game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That atmosphere will prepare you for what Neyland's going to be loud and aggressive, but
Right.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, let's flip it. Let's flip it a second, because I know y'all want to go here, because I will tell you what will make us know this room very well. And that is, we've said this, I think we will hear this echo from all three of us as we enter into the season. If we can run the football, if we can get back to Georgia football, we don't have to worry about what Gunner Stockton, Ryan Puglisi. Matter of fact, the run game is going to make them look like superstars, because, in my opinion, that's what made Stetson Bennett look like a superstar, is the ability to lean on, Todd Monken getting the ball in playmakers' hands, regardless of if it was a run, a screen, a dump pass, a tight end over the middle, whatever it was. But my thing is that's my number one. The quarterback position is my number one position group that I feel like I know a lot about. That's mine. But I think I'm just going to hit the nail on the head with one of the ones we do not know a lot about.
Yeah, I agree.
That's our offensive line, right? So let's hammer in on this. Now, do we agree? Fish, is this or are you coming out of left field? I'm gonna let you lead off if you are. Do you feel like you know what we got in our offensive line?
No.
Okay, so let's hop in. So here we go. Let's lay the groundwork. I think we all agree on this one. So obviously, when we look at offensive line, 4 starters, but we know one thing we do a really great job of at Georgia is we rotate offensive linemen. So we do have some offensive linemen who have seen what I call the show, right? So they've seen the show. They're on a rotation now. So when you look at center, obviously Georgia feels like center is a lockdown position. They feel like they like what they have in Drew Bobo. I have seen Drew Bobo's pictures in spring practice the last 2 days, and my worry is the man still has not gained any weight. Now, we can fight that dilemma in a second, because I texted you guys something about, are we going a different route with this? Because I also see that in a couple other linemen. But do you guys agree, like, what we know about Drew Bobo? Toughness, right? Tough kid. I think he did a great job when he came in for Jared. He knows the playbook. He's a football coach's kid, right?
Yep.
Smart guy, has very good grades, dependable. I think Drew Bobo's definitely not chasing the NIL dollars right now, right? Student of the game. So you need this, right, in a center. Center's a guy that has to make sure the line is where they need to be. Here's the other returning starter that I'm excited about, and then there's some ones that I'm in limbo about. The one that I'm the most excited about returning is Micah Morris. I think it's been voted on by a lot of players on the team the strongest lineman on the offensive line, if not the strongest guy on the field. This is a very strong guy. I think Micah Morris can set a very big tone for himself this year, some dominance, and he can be a first-round guy next year. Strongest guy on the line, great pass blocker. He's shown that. Very solid arms, hands, agile guy for his weight. I like Micah Morris. These are the knowns. Obviously, Monroe Freeling. Let's hop in on these two guys right quick. Monroe Freeling, Ernest Green, right? Richman. Obviously, the trenches were your place when you played in high school ball. How'd you feel about these two guys? Obviously, Ernest Green, for me, was a little bit of a letdown this year, and Monroe Freeling shined at times.
He played better the year before.
Right.
But then
So tell me about these two guys, right? They're supposed to be guys that are going to be taking on positions. Obviously, we're looking at Monroe as one of your lockdown tackles, probably going to be guarding Gunner's, his backside. And Ernest Green, who I personally think is more of a guard. But I think they're going to have him at the other tackle. But what do you think about these two guys?
Well, Monroe Freeling played pretty good until the end of the. He didn't play well against Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. What do you think was his biggest problem? What do you think Monroe Freeling's biggest problem is?
I have no idea. The thing is, like the thing that's so weird is he's the one. His mother's a yoga instructor, and he's a yoga like he can do. He's very agile and flexible. So you think footwork would be right up his alley, which you would think would feed right into being able to position himself to block the edge. But he got beat bad, in the against Notre Dame.
He got obliterated.
I'm wondering if he was hurt, hurt or sore.
I think we underestimated severely Notre Dame's edge speed.
Yeah, they were
good. Flying off the edge.
Yeah.
Now, Ernest Green, I thought had a shoulder problem. Is that not true? Yeah,
he did.
I think both of them have surgery.
Yeah, his was a little less evasive. I think it was more of a TLC type thing. I don't know if he had surgery. I know Monroe did, but Ernest Green's out there for spring right now. So, I like these guys. Right? They came out. Came out of high school. Go ahead.
They're experienced. Let's just think that experience they're gonna take that experience and play a lot more consistent this year.
Notre Dame's defense was great.
We've talked about
their D line was not bad.
Can these big guys run block?
Yeah, and listen, Kirby said it in his presser. They're big film guys, right? They're big mirror guys. I think once you get in the season, I don't know about you guys, but like if you ask me to, I don't know, if I'm a car salesman, right, and you're asking me within a month to change completely how I sell cars, I don't. If you tell me a couple of things that I'm doing wrong and I can tweak a couple of things and get better, that's more of a logistical thing that might happen. But I will tell you this, we did not run block great all year. And I think what had to happen over the offseason is I think we're going to be changing a lot of the ways we scheme things. It's just not what it used to be. Like, I mean, Richman said it a lot in group chats that we look back at when we watched games is it's not a lineup and just go man on man anymore. You got to be very strategic on how you run block in the SEC, not only in the SEC but in the entire NCAA.
Yeah, the schemes are complicated. I mean,
yeah. Kirby got a little cocky last year.
When you start looking at that film breakdown, you're looking at this big guy that weighs 330 pounds, and he's got to move around the pile and catch a linebacker that runs 4.5 40.
Yeah,
that's a job, man.
Yeah, I agree, man.
That's a wishful job,
and that's what I know. You alluded to it a little bit, but like, is a smaller, agile line the way of the future? I think it may be.
I'm wondering because
I mean, you got Drew Bobo, who, I mean, in Kirby we trust, but Drew Bobo would
Ratledge run a 4.9 or 4.8 40.
Yeah,
and he came
the mullet was flying down the.
He ran a 4.7 without the mullet, bro.
Woo, that's crazy.
Here's my thing: when you look at the other, now this is why I think this. Look at how this line has swung, in my opinion, because I've listened to Austin. What's Austin's last name? Our film guy.
Yeah, the film guy.
Austin. Anyway, film guy, Austin. I've listened to Austin. I've listened to Stuart Mandel. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, Georgia guys, that SEC podcast. And when you look at Georgia's line, did we hit a spurt where we recruited different? Now, we didn't show that in our cards this year because our offensive linemen that we took this year were just battleships, right? But when you look at the breakout possibilities we have for this year, they're looking at Daniel Calhoun to be the guy that takes over at the other guard position, which Tate played last year. I mean, Daniel Calhoun's 6'6", man. 325. That's a mammoth.
Hey, I'll
Massive.
tell you something
person.
that's interesting about these linemen. I saw Andrews play. I saw a clip with Andrews playing center at Georgia. He didn't even get drafted, and then he
Right.
walks on, or not walks on, but he goes free agent undrafted, starts for the Patriots and has been there forever. But
Got some
that
rings.
dude is fast and agile. And
Right.
those guys in the pros, they got to be agile.
The
They got to be
defense is
athletes,
so
very
much faster
athletic.
in the NFL than it is at any college.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I mean, with
So
the exception of maybe like the Georgias, Alabamas of the world.
Right.
But
Right.
man,
I'm
you've got to
thinking,
be able to run.
I'm thinking that they're gonna. Well, I don't know. I'd like to think we're gonna start seeing some more athletic type offensive linemen.
I mean, well, here's the thing. The three guys that are like notables to watch for, Bo Hughley. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Bo Hughley, but once again, he's a guy that a lot of people are questioning. Is he undersized a little bit? Is he a little slim for what that offensive line is notorious for? Jamal Merriweather, definitely a guy who people think needs to get a little bit of beef on him. And then Michael Uini, which is a highly touted freshman we brought in last year, who we're looking at. These three guys right here are not your prototypicals. They're running more in that 295 to 310 mark, where we've kind of surfaced more around the 325 to 315 to 345 like stature, right?
I mean, again, look at the Sugar Bowl, man. The Notre Dame's D line is small compared to our O line.
I mean,
Yeah.
But
that's the
they
thing.
didn't have a problem getting pressure. Like there was no leaning on them, wearing them down. There was none of that because we couldn't, we couldn't hold them in a spot, or we couldn't get to them because they were like those
Right.
guys were small and quick.
Right.
I mean,
right.
we got a little exposed in that sense, I think.
Yeah.
Especially on the edge.
I agree.
I mean, basically what we're talking about is tackles need to be more athletic. I think.
I think you're going to have more aggressive stunting, zone type stunting in that middle area, and tackles are going to have to get out and run. They're going to have to get out and figure out who to pick up. And I think you'll see. I mean, we've ran typically a zone blocking scheme, but I think you're going to see us do a little bit of a hybrid this year, and you're going to see some very much so. Like I think you're going to try to see some. Our offense, we're going to try to make it a little bit more easier for our offensive line to understand where the most pressure is coming from, because we don't have an athleticism or a talent problem. It's not that. It's more of are we so driven towards concepts that we want to do these zone type of schemes that are so crazy, outlandish, cool. But like at the end of the day, man, we just got to put a hat on a hat. If we give Nate Frazier an inch, we've seen what he can do. Yeah. So we just need to give him 3 more inches, and I think he'll be fine. But guys,
let me ask you another question.
We've stifled our run game for the last 2 years. We've stifled it.
Are we going to see fullback come back into college?
No. Hey, fullback's done. I mean, the reason I see that is because I think defenses are too complex and dynamic nowadays to do it. I mean, you see the Armies and the Navies and the those type of offenses, and they're hard to go after here or there. But I think depending on which defense they go up against and the athleticism built around it, it's almost wasting. Some people think it's wasting a body, a possibility. Because you got to think
is it wasting a body when your freaking tackle can't block the edge?
No, but I think you got to focus on the problem. You can't just put another. We're in the SEC, man. This is Georgia. We have our pick of offensive linemen. We really do, man. So for us to sit here and say we got to bring the fullback back so that we can get a run game going, that's a coaching error. To waste a body to put a hat on somebody so that we can get to make the run game effective. I think we used the fullback back in the day. Yes, it helped with blocking, but we also used them. We utilized them. They caught passes
a lot.
A lot.
like now, if we bring him in, it's just like a dual quarterback system. You bring in,
Right.
you got the passer who starts and plays all the time, then drives you down to the 1 or 2. Then they bring in the other guy who's, quick, who can run.
They
And
usually bring in a
oh my
defense.
God, you know what's happening. Like it's
Right.
such a dumb thing to do. Like I don't understand why people still do it. It works less than it doesn't work more than
Didn't we
it
bring
does.
Chaz in at fullback a couple of times?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but if what I'm saying is like if you turn it into a package, then it loses its effectiveness.
Right.
Like
Unless it's
when
a
we were
decoy.
lining up in the
Unless it's a
eye,
decoy.
80% of the time back in the day, then yeah, it made sense.
Yeah. No, I agree, Fish. Richman was chiming in on what you were saying. It's like a decoy. It's like,
Yeah.
they're there. It's a waste of a body. If you're going to do that, man, put a guy on the perimeter and at least make me think you're going to do something with him. At least get a guy out of the box. It's the same thing. You put a guy in the box because we can't block what's in the box, or just take the guy out of the box. Or if the defense goes, you can take him out of the box all you want to, but we don't trust you're going to throw to him. That's what happened the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we didn't throw to a tight end a lot. We didn't throw to
until the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, the early season, we didn't hit our tight ends.
Well, speaking of that, I have those down as I have the tight end room is about as comfortable as I do the quarterback position. I think this is a position that we know a lot about. I think we know what we get with Oscar Delp. I think Lawson Lucky became a very dependable set of hands for us. I mean, I think Austin Lucky is going to have I hope if he doesn't, then we're going to be saying the same things we always have. We're going to be like, what the hell is Bobo doing? Because Lawson Lucky proved he was a go-to guy last year. And so you're looking at Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky. We know what Delp and Lucky bring to the game. I look at them as almost, I don't know about you guys, but do they kind of remind you of each other? They have the same play style. I think they have the same route running. I mean, sometimes it's hard when if you were to take away the number, I wouldn't know the difference in the two. They really have similar play styles.
Yeah, and they're about the same size, same height.
Yeah, great hands.
Same build.
They block well, very good vocal leaders. They're just consistent guys. And then you add some flash, right? I call them the flash in the pan, right? And I'm not looking past Reddick and all the other guys, but the two guys we brought in, Ethan Barber, I think Ethan Barber is going to see the field. I don't know the capacity of how, but I've heard so much good things about Ethan Barber. Another guy who wants to be at Georgia, right? 5-star tight end who could have gone anywhere, played at Milton, wants to be at Georgia. I've heard he has great hands, does not shy away from contact, and has tight end, like really elusive tight end speed. And then if you guys look at these two tight ends we brought in, I know that Elias is not Darnell Washington. He's not the size. I mean, Darnell Washington was a freak of a man.
6'7".
Right. But we do have 6'7". We have a different hybrid with Elias. 6'7", 235. He's tall, but I've heard he has more born, just God-given speed than
red zone
Darnell had.
Red zone package.
We better be
red zone hardly.
We better be throwing fades with Colby and that dude on the team.
Bro, I mean,
we better be utilizing the fade a little bit.
We don't even have our receivers. I don't have our receivers in here because I do think I think they're not a too high and too low. But I mean, we haven't even talked about some of our receivers. I mean, you look at the portal players we got. You look at we got some height, buddy. And if we don't use it, we're crazy for it. But I want you guys to chime in. I like this tight end room, man. I like this tight end room. If I am Mike Bobo, the tight ends and the QBs are like, they gotta be like one unit, man.
Yep.
Like this could be the unit. This is the unit that could game break every team we play, every team. Because I think you got Brock Bowers type talent. I'm not saying any of these guys are Brock Bowers, but I am saying you got Brock Bowers type talent in all four of these guys. You got speed in there involved. You got great hands. You got great pass blocking. You got gritty leaders. You have height. I mean, height is not what Brock Bowers has, but he played like it. He would go get balls that were just not catchable. Yeah. So I like this tight end room, man. I think we know a lot about this. I think we need to really come into the spring and the fall as this is a position group that can be a staple in us winning the national championship. What do you think, Fish?
Of course. And we're UGA. Yes, we use the tight end. When we don't, it's obvious. Like you can tell, like we had an off year. We didn't utilize our tight ends much last year, but to be fair, Urasek was supposed to help out a lot, and he didn't. I mean, at the beginning of the year at least. Towards the end, he got a little better, a little more dependable, but still, never really amounted to what he was supposed to.
But in the early season, our tight ends had some drops, and then it's like they went away from him until the end of the season.
Yeah.
And
well, or was it Carson Beck that went away from it? Maybe his stat padding wasn't happening. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be a Carson Beck hater, man, because
bro. All right, I
backed him. I backed him. I'll say this: I backed him. Sorry.
No, let him go. I think leaving and going to Miami was the plan to finish out Hannah's senior year, his girl's senior year down there, so they could go to school together. I believe that was the deal all along, and I think players knew it. I think they could tell. I'm sure it showed in his actions. His, sitting on the sideline laughing when we're getting our butts kicked.
Yeah.
Having a good time. No, bro, you better not be seen on TV laughing on the sideline when you're losing by 3 touchdowns. Or however bad we were getting beat whenever.
Yeah, I want the guy that's mad as a hornet
on the sideline, yelling at folks. Throwing cups, kicking helmets. Throwing a little hissy fit, whatever.
Like
that's a
Brady.
leader. Somebody being angry. Yeah, Brady. You think Brady was over there cracking jokes on Randy Moss when Eli Manning was beating them in the Super Bowl? No.
Right.
No. He was bye. Like I think that was the whole plan all along. I just you'll never tell me it wasn't.
What do you we got time for one more. What do you guys want to do? You guys I got a couple more.
Running backs.
I agree. I was gonna ask. What about you, Fish? You want to do running backs?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about our running backs. I know about Nate Frazier, and I'll tell you why, man. I don't know if Rod Robinson's I don't know if he's gonna get on the field again this year. I don't know what Branson looks like. I mean, another MCL. We didn't see a lot of Dwight Phillips, although I heard he had crazy speed. Obviously, we know what we get in Cash. Cash chose to come back for his senior redshirt senior year. But we just really don't know, man. I mean, we know what we get in Nate Frazier, but God forbid if something happens to Nate Frazier, and I'm not saying for lack of talent, but what do we have? And what, I guess this is the best question for time's sake. Richman, what is the scariest part that you're the most concerned at from our running back room?
Oh, I'm worried about Nate Frazier getting hurt, and then we don't have anything. We got Cash, and I love Cash, but he's not going to be your bell cow. He third down, and he can catch the ball like nobody's business. He's got great hands, but we need another back. We need a back. We need a brawny back that can take a little bit of the load off Nate Frazier because he's our scat back. Who's our bulldozer?
We need Rod Robinson to be healthy. He is the key, man. He is the bruiser, man. But he is it's what Georgia wants to do, the 1-2 punch. We didn't get to do it though.
But it's, like these running backs, they've been hurt the whole time. I'm like, if they've been hurt that much, they're not going to be healthy.
Okay. And I will say
Dejon, what's his name?
Dejon Edwards.
He never got hurt. And that guy, he would give you everything he had.
Right.
He was a great support back, and he was tough as nail. I mean, you could depend on him.
All right, I got the answer. It's Bo Walker. How can you have a name like that?
Yeah.
And not be awesome?
I mean, he's the only running back we went after this year. So here's my thing, man. We know Kirby. I think right now everybody would say that Kirby Smart is kind of the president. He's taken over the president of the SEC, kind of like Nick Saban was before he left. He's the coach. He's probably number one on everybody's coach's list as far as best coach that anybody would want if they can handpick him right now. And they were a college football team. So you look at that and you go, we didn't go grab anybody in the portal. We only took one running back when we know that not only we knew pre-portal, but we knew that after, like, post-portal, that Trevor Etienne was now going to go. But do we think that Kirby knows enough about Rod and Branson to maybe trust the fact, talking with Ron Corson and the staff, the incredible staff that we have? I mean, they obviously trust our staff enough to where Corson's taking another position. He's not even the guy anymore. This other guy's going to be taking over. So obviously they trust this, but do we think that he thinks that Rod and Branson are, barring any other injuries, right? They've looked good enough coming out of these injuries they have that we have a 3, 4, 5 deep. Now, we haven't seen Chauncey Bowens. I've heard good things. Dwight Phillips, I've heard, has like out of this world track star speed. We didn't get to see it a lot. We saw it in some gimmicky plays.
Maybe,
like you said earlier.
He knows that he's got quality back there.
Yeah.
To back up, to fall back on. Maybe that's what he knows. If he's got quality back there and he's comfortable with that, that's awesome. I hope that's the case.
I hope so too. And believe me, I agree with you, Fish. We only took one running back last year, and his name was Bo Walker. And once again, Bo Walker wanted to be at Georgia. Actually, Bo Walker actually reclassified and played for another team his senior year to not throw him off track of joining the team when he was supposed to join the team. He was that much of a mindset. And I know when you look back at high school football, believe me, like, I get it, man. I'm sure that his high school was like, man, like, is that really the most important thing? Like, Bo Walker would be a great addition to win a state championship at that. But he chose to go play at a place that he could compete and play. He had some eligibility issues because of it, but he still arrived on campus on time, and he's the only running back that we went after. So I like the name, and we must have liked something about him.
Love the name.
I love the name. I can see me right now if
everything lines up,
right? If everything lines up, we should be having some Bo Walker jerseys, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So we did running backs. I think we got time. We'll slide one more in, maybe, even though we're right at an hour. Let's slide one more real quick in. One that I think we don't know a lot about is and I'm concerned about, but I'm hopeful for, is our defensive line. I know that I heard a really good interview after I made these notes from Zion Logue and from what's my man? He was in the pro day, Stackhouse. He said that Christian Miller is primed for a breakout season. I agree with him. I thought Christian Miller was one of the guys that every time I watched film, he is an incredibly disciplined defensive lineman. He does what he's supposed to. He's in the spots he's supposed to be in. On top of that, he has great talent. He's a great run stopper in that middle. We need that. But the thing I heard from Austin was he's a smart guy and he's always in the right place. And that is a step above talent, in my opinion, anytime, because if the coaches are putting him in the right place and he's where he's supposed to be, that means 90% of the job is done. Now all he has to do is do what everybody, in my opinion, every player is taught to do from Pee Wee League, and that's just tackle, or just push him the direction you want to go. And then I heard that we haven't seen the best of Xavier McLeod and Jordan Hall. And so it was very enlightening to hear those names. And then I heard this comment, and don't call it what I said, but they said Elijah Griffin is your next Jalen Carter. They all three said he is a man among boys. And I think we're going to see Elijah Griffin this year. And I think Elijah Griffin.
I'm
is going
excited
to have
to
a
see
year.
him play.
Yeah.
If he's Jalen Carter, you're not going to keep him off the field. You're not going to keep him off the field. Jalen Carter was a talent that nobody could keep off the field, even as a freshman. He saw a lot of snaps. But there are questions. I mean, Isaiah Wilson is another 5-star talent, edge guy we got in. I want to see him. This is why I want to see the G-Day game, man. I want to see these guys in pads. I want to see him move. I remember, and we're not doing linebackers tonight because we're going to run out of time, but I remember the year it was last year, I was so excited and ready to see Justin Williams and Chris Cole and a lot of these 5-star linebacker guys that we got. I was ready to see those guys, and when I did see them, they did not. They didn't hold back, man. I think they had great G-Day games. That was last year, and so I'm really excited to see what some of those young guys are gonna do from our linebacking core. But I'll let you guys chime in real quick. Like, what do you like, dislike about this? I mean, do you agree? Richman, do you agree with this? Like, do you know enough about the defensive line? You really don't know this. I got it down as don't know enough yet. Like, I need to know. I need to see this.
I mean, I've been saying this for a long time. Is these defenses that we run don't work without Hoss in the middle, and Millard needs to be our breakout horse. He needs to be the one that dominates that middle, takes a double team, and opens it up so the other guys can go hit and make plays. And that's what we need. And the other thing, our linebacker play, man, it seemed like to me they missed the gap so much last year. It just killed me. And
I think Schumann. I'm gonna step out here. I know we're going off track here, but I think Schumann's gonna have a year. That just wasn't his. That was not his linebacker DNA last year, and I think
it was a little off.
He's gonna really hone in on that this year. Where it's like, look, we pride ourselves on being in the right spot, tackling well, and as Kirby used to say, havoc. Like, our job is to wreak absolute damn havoc on everything we touch. And there's talent in that room, man. I mean, there's huge amounts of talent in that room, young and old. I mean, Raylan's coming. I mean, Raylan's going to be a guy that's going to be a staple in that room. Obviously, CJ. I know you don't. I don't say I don't like CJ, but I know you question CJ a little bit, and you like to see CJ back into that sophomore freshman.
He just had some weird form. I don't know, like a little off.
I think the defense was put in a bad position last year because for the first half of the game, our offense would go 3 and out more than they wouldn't.
But we didn't score in the first half.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because the defense had to come in and they have to play more, so they're getting tired and they're getting wore out.
Right. Yeah,
100%. And
100%.
By the second half, crunch time, okay, the offense finally kicks it into gear, then that's great. But
you want to see our defense play better, put some points on the board in the first quarter.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be 21 or 28, but let's get a touchdown and a field goal, maybe.
I mean, I love that Kirby turned the culture and made us a second half team, but that doesn't mean you got to wait until the second half of the third quarter.
He fully committed to the second half last year. Fully committed.
I mean, I don't want to be a prankster, but what the hell do we do for the first half? I mean, it was like, what were we doing? I mean,
it was painful to watch the first half of every Georgia
stand
game
over
last
there.
year.
You can go stand in line for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it was painful.
Yeah, I just hope we just, you know what? And I'm sure we're going to have this topic on a lot of shows pre first game. But if you ask me a dream of mine this year, it would be to hop on teams and bury them in the first 2 quarters. Let's just bury people, right?
Yeah. I mean,
let's get our players that need some reps in there.
What do you think? Did
you
pick? I missed your podcast. What did you pick us to go this year?
I got Georgia over and under 9.5, 10. I think it's a good question. Let me pull my.
I mean, with as much inexperience we have, quarterbacks. We're waiting for the running back game. Waiting for the offensive line game. We want to shore up some of our defensive play. 10-2 would be awesome.
Yeah, I think.
and get
I
us in
mean,
the playoff again.
yeah, we'd be in the playoffs. I think what you look at is here. I mean, I have I have our things up, but I just want to make sure that I was prepared last week. But let's look here. So yeah, so I think Marshall's a win. I think Austin P is a win. I think Tennessee will be tough at Neyland early, but I think we'll be okay. I think Tennessee has a lot of unanswered questions at wide receiver, running back, offensive line. But the defense will be good.
They got destroyed.
I think the support around Nico this year, from an already, Nico struggled last year with a lot of great support. He had a borderline Heisman running back in the backfield, a really vet line, and a much better receiving core. That Squirrel White went to Florida State. Brew McCoy went to the. I mean, I think
Squirrel White transferred out. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Squirrel White went to Florida State.
Wow.
Took some NIL money, man. So I think Tennessee's a win. I think Alabama. I think it's a win. I think it's at home. I think you don't know what quarterback's going to be there. I think Alabama. I'm ready to talk a lot about games, but I'll keep going. I think Kentucky's a win. Kentucky's going to be very, very horrible this year. Bad. I think Auburn will be tricky. I think Auburn's a win. I think Ole Miss has 20. They lost 20 starters from last year. They spent a lot of money on portal last year.
Out of 22.
Yeah, so
redemption 20, time.
Yeah, so
Kirby
I think
is
that's
going
a win.
To destroy them. I don't care what our record looks like.
Yeah, so I think Mississippi State is not going to be very great. Although I think Blake Shapen got injured last year, and I'm curious to see what he'll do. But once again, a team that has to rebuild. I think Charlotte's a win. I think Tech being in a neutral site will help this game. It'll lose a little bit of the luster it's lost from being a home and home. So I think obviously you look at our possible 2 losses where they could come. I think they're like last year. I think our 2 losses that we could either go 11-1, 10-2, or 12-0. We do get these 2 games at home, but Texas and Alabama are probably going to be our biggest 2 games. Florida's
going to be iffy. I don't know.
It'll be a tougher game than last year.
Yeah, I think I have us around. I think 10 and a half is safe. I got 2 teams at 10 and a half, and that I had to look back at my picture because I can't remember, but I had 2 teams at 10 and a half, and that was Texas. Texas's strength, Texas's schedule is right? Well, yeah, Texas is 10 and a half because their schedule's terrible. Like it's so easy. Like their schedule's
terrible,
ridiculous.
But their team, I mean, the talent's loaded. And they
no, I mean when I say terrible, like they have one of the easiest schedules in the SEC. Yeah, but they're not loaded. They will get. I mean, they got some talent back coming on the running back, obviously. I mean, but guys, I understand Arch Manning is talked about, but some of these quarterbacks have seen the same amount of time as a Gunnar Stockton. I mean, Arch Manning might have received 8 more quarters of play than Gunnar, so he's still an unknown if he can day in and day out. What's that? That's true.
LSU and Texas A&M are supposed to be tough this year, right?
Texas A&M got some questions. That quarterback, he had some spark, but the quarterback position let him down a lot towards the end of the year. The vet quarterbacks that are coming back are, I mean, if you call them vets, are Diego Pavia, Nico Iamaleava. I mean, you can't call Arch a vet. I would say Nico, Pavia, and Taylor Green from Arkansas are really your only veteran quarterbacks coming back that had huge roles in their team's offense last year. I mean, you look at you got a brand new quarterback that's going to be at Auburn, coming from Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold. You got brand new guy coming from Washington State for Oklahoma with his OC. You don't know much. I mean, you know about Arch, but we only know what we think we know about Arch. We still don't know a lot about Gunnar. We don't know a lot about Lagway. I think we know enough about Lagway. So Lagway, we can kind of put in that. Yeah, he's a returning crucial piece. A lot of people have Lagway as possibly the best quarterback in the SEC next year.
Yeah,
on some people's lists. But I mean, you got what is it? Zach Calzada down at Vandy. I'm sorry, not Vandy, but Zach Calzada at Kentucky. Like homeboy's been around every team. He went to Auburn. He went to some, but Nussmeier for LSU. Yes, some people have Nussmeier. This is very, very outlandish. But some people have Nussmeier on their early Heisman list.
I think that's smart.
About that.
That's safe. No, dude.
I like Nussmeier.
He's pretty good.
He came in against us 2 years ago, and we all said the same thing. We were like, man, that guy's got a live arm.
Yep.
He's a good kid.
Also said our secondary's atrocious.
Yeah.
We got exposed.
Yeah, we did, man. We did. Hey, man, final thoughts. Okay, I want you to answer the question real quick. Who are you most excited? If you could pick any player, who are you most excited about getting a glimpse at that you haven't seen play, whether it be a transfer, like who are you excited about? I know I wrote down some honorable mentions of who I want to see. I got Zacharian Branch down there, Taylor, Colby, obviously, Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, the transfer, the big 6'3" kid coming in, Justin Williams, Ellis Robinson, a name that is he going to fight for a spot with? Is this his year to break the cusp and take over the spot from Daniel Harris? But Fish, who are you most excited about? If you give me one, if you need two,
I like Ellis Robinson. That's not a bad one. And my other one would be Bo Walker. I want to see him get some early snaps as a freshman.
I like it.
But yeah, I know we saw Ellis Robinson play a little bit last year, and I don't think he looked bad when he got in. I think he was all right. He maybe bulk up, put on a few pounds, get a little smarter, get his football IQ up a little bit, and then I think he'll be good to go. He should be starting this year. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to seeing KJ Bolden get more playing time too on the back end.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about the secondary, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. What about you? Richman? What are you looking forward to?
That's a loaded question. There's so many. I'm excited to see Elijah Griffin. I want to see that.
Elijah Griffin. Yeah, man.
I want to see how that matches up on this level. There's so many. I want to see Rod Robinson get out there and do some damage and not get hurt. And
I want to see Gunner play in a relaxed environment. Like not a SEC championship, not a playoff game. I want to see him play in like easy
and like
easy
control
game.
It, dominate.
Yeah.
God, there's some. I want to see Colby. I want to see him. I want to see him climb the ladder and catch those balls, man.
I want to see some fades in the red zone, man. I want to see some fades in the red zone.
We've talked about all of these guys. We've got so much talent. It's going to be exciting to see who steps up and what happens. Because this is an unknown. This team's an unknown, but we've got so much talent across the board. You can't help but be optimistic and excited. We could be right back in the SEC championship again. These guys come to play, and we could be there.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and I will say this: there's a lot for me, but I like what I hear about. I'm about Elijah Griffin, Isaiah Wills. I like what I hear about a lot of these guys. But I will tell you, I got 3, and they're all wide receivers, crazily enough. I'm excited to see what the flash is. This is our first 5-star receiver since A.J. Green is Taylor.
Yeah, I'm big on him.
I want to see Taylor. I want to see Zachariah Branch. I want to see this. This guy's probably going to take over our punt returner and our kick returning duties. And I want to see what kind of speed he's going to offer. And I'm going to say something that's painful. Can he give us the Aryan speed with the hands? Can we get the combo right?
We need one, man. It seems like everybody else is able to get a good young stud freshman wide receiver. Oh my God, I want one of those.
Yeah,
I want one of those so bad.
combine
Yeah.
catch all those balls. What the
Who is that?
Arian
He
catching all those
was
balls
looking
in the
like
combine.
he had, the
Dude,
best
I think
hands in America at the
I think
combine.
he had some bets out this year, man. That I don't know, man. He said,
Yeah.
"Man, bottom line ain't right." So
I'm
Prize
only
Pick,
going to give you about 50%.
right? Exactly. Prize Pick's got to get it right. And then my last guy that is being slept on that I think possibly, guys, could be one of the more leaned on guys that I think was brought in with more upside than any of these guys was Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. This is a big Colt. I mean, can you imagine a day where you could see an Elias Williams in there with a Noah Thomas and um, a Colby Young? I mean, you're looking at 6'3", 6'4", and 6'7" across the board. I mean, this Noah Thomas guy, like, we really wanted this guy, and Texas A&M is not going to be a bad team. So I think if he knew that he wasn't going to come in with some kind of carved out thoughts of him being in this lineup next year, I don't think Noah Thomas leaves Texas A&M. So I think he was very sought out by Georgia, and I think he's somebody we don't know. So I'm really excited about Taylor, Branch, Thomas. I want to see these three guys. There's hype around them. We didn't do a lot of portal damage, but we went after these two guys, and we signed our first 5-star receiver in a long time. So I really want to see what they look like because of the fact that they're not on any of my lists for. I mean, I think we know enough about what we can possibly see, so I don't think they're on our. Don't really know much about them, but I really don't. Like we don't know a lot about like what that's going to look like. We can see depth charts, and believe me, there's other people in there that can splash the pot. Would I hope this year that Dylan Bell has a year like he had 2 years ago? That's what I would love. I would love to see the old Dylan Bell come back with some of these guys like Nitro Tuggle and
Love that name.
White. Sokovie White is a name that I've been hearing move around a lot of camp. So I mean, guys, I don't want to say much about this wide receiver room because we did it last year, and dear Lord, it was our Achilles heel, the hands, the catching the ball.
But it wasn't our fault. Like the hype was real. Just like on our running back room,
Right.
with the addition of Trevor Etienne, I mean, we didn't know that both the Robinsons were going to blow their knees out, or something like they were just going to have these devastating season-ending injuries. I mean, we didn't know. We didn't know Colby was going to get his legal troubles, and and Arian was going to turn into hot hands from Little Giants. I mean,
we didn't know Beck was going to buy a Lambo and throw 15 interceptions.
That man was halfway gone in Miami last year while he was in Athens, still playing for us.
Yeah, because if he was going to stay in Athens, he would have bought an F-150.
That's right.
You guys are too much. I don't want to do car talk this year, man. Let's we're gonna bury Carson officially right now. So I'm not burying him. That's a bad way to look at it. But anyways, hey man, loved it, enjoyed it. Little longer show because during the off season it's hard to get everything in, man. But I'm interested to see what the next few days. We drag these 15 to 17 practices out over a month, and so next time we all get together, hoping to have some more Kirby follow-up pressers to see how things are going. Hopefully to see some more picks, maybe some video footage. Hoping we still get that G-Day game and we get to see what we're holding. I'm hoping and praying that stays. So yeah, man. So Fish, Richman, always a pleasure, man. Thanks everyone for hanging in. I saw a lot of people popping in, tons of people on TikTok. The room got upwards of 65 at one point in time. So I know it's hard. Can't answer all the questions, but we will be hopping on TikTok again to hop over there and talk about more of the SEC in general. But make sure if you haven't done so, go and hit us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, trying to reach 1,000 followers. We're nowhere close, but we are making strides. Twitter, same way. And then if you don't get a chance to see us tonight, we are live on Apple. I'm sorry, not live, but we are recorded on Apple Podcasts. This entire show will be on Apple Podcasts this time tomorrow. Go check us out. It'll be episode 52. But Fish, thank you so much for joining, man. Always good to have you, man. Missed having you guys. Rich, man, missed having you guys in here with me. It's much better atmosphere, man, and much more fun, man. So
only 4.5 more months of doldrums, and then it's Go Dogs time.
There
Yeah,
you go,
they're-
man. 4.5 more months of finding crap to talk about, but we will. We will.
Hey, we
We'll
did it
sweat it
last
out.
year. We'll do it this year.
We'll
Yeah.
sweat it out.
Yeah, we'll sweat it out, man. Hey, but hey, man, thanks for joining, guys. Hey, everybody, you guys have a great rest of your week, and as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.